Hello, we are going to go over our Cygnus project here. I'm very excited to just talk about it, so let's just dive in. Let's just start right at the top. So we're on the first slide of our Constellation project. Here's my name, obviously, here's our teacher, and then we can just watch our video. I apologize for this little bubble that's going to continue to pop up. So here we're just drawing out the constellation itself on the first slide, connecting the stars and how the constellation itself presents itself throughout the constellation. So I had some hard troubles too, kind of connecting, so I apologize, but I did try my best. But yeah, so if we see, I had kind of, oh, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, if we just drag it all the way out towards the end and we just kind of pause it in those little spots. What is going on there? That's not what I wanted to show. Okay, well, I wanted to show the little boxes, but in that scene, if you could, I would pause it there, but that would be all of the little stars in the constellation that makes up the constellation that I personally had studied. So that is the first slide, and that is all of the stars throughout the entire constellation. Going off onto the next slide, we have our 4 brightest stars. I think this was probably one of my more favorite slides to research on, in my personal opinion, just because it was cool to see what stars were the brightest. And I personally had chose Cygnus as my constellation because I was born in July, and I had felt that it was around my birthday, so that's what I wanted to research, and it just fit very well. So researching the 4 brightest stars that were in the constellation around the time that I was born was very cool in my opinion. So the first brightest star here, we have Deneb, and it is also known as A Cygni. And for that we have 3,227.72 distance from the Earth in light years. I'd say that's pretty far. So that is the farthest star away from the sun. Of these 4 anyways. It also has X-ray spectrum, Cygnus OB2. It's a supergiant star. It moves towards us at -5 meters per second, right? Or is that miles per second? I forget. We also have Sadir over here. It's also known as Gamma Cygni, also known as Y Cygni. I thought that was really cool because a lot of these have code names, and a lot of them obviously just have Cygni at the end. I think that's cool because I'm in Phi Theta Kappa, and we'll get to that a little later on, but I just think that it's really cool that some of the stars line up with some of the names in PTK. And yeah, like I just went through and I had wanted to search this. Sorry, my daughter just walked by. I motioned for her to move to the side. We also have Aliana, the E Cygni. So that distance here is 72.03 distance from Earth in light years. That is known as KO111. It is a hypergiant. And that's why I chose some of these, is because, you know, like the first one, it's just the supergiant. The Sadir, it's a multiple supergiant. This Bawaris, which I'm not sure how to pronounce this right here, but we have this and Cygni and then Delta Cygni, so maybe that's what that means, Delta. Not quite sure. 170.95, that's the distance from the Earth in light years. It is also known as B9IV, which I believe is B95. And it's also a multiple subgiant, and it moves towards us. So all of these stars, they move towards us. I don't know if that's just because right now we're more closer to the Gemini constellation, but the Gemini zodiac. Sorry, I spaced there. But yeah, I thought that some of these things were really cool to learn, especially in terms of where to look in the sky, especially in terms of on what days, and you know, which ones might be closer or might be more what's the word, easier to see to the eye view, and not trying to like maybe going to search for, like, let's say we're gonna search for Sadir, but we see that the distance from that Earth is 1523.36, but then we go to the E Cygni and we see that that's only 72.03, you know. So I would think that the 72.03 distance from the Earth would be more easier to see than maybe Sadir. And I think that that's why this is cool that we were doing this research, is because I think that it could really help in terms of if you were searching for stars, or if you were looking through a telescope, which I do also enjoy to do as well. So on our third slide here, this was all of our deep space objects we had to choose for. I personally made a video with my deep space objects pointing out where they were, and that's that video, so if you'd like to watch it. And I wasn't quite sure if we needed to do that or not, but I did. And of course, like, I put my little circles and my connecting lines and whatnot in the video, so when you watch that, just, you know, be watching for those for sure. Now, all of these, I would say that the one that mostly is questionable is NCG 758. I didn't have a whole lot of research done on this one, but it did keep coming up in other places too. So I wanted to include it because the way that it personally, I personally found it to be cool. Just like the Veil Nebulae here. Like, that was like one of these is a super clusters of storm. Maybe that's the firework galaxy. But one of them is a super cluster of storms. And I had just thought that that was really, really cool in all of those terms. There we go. That's what it's at. So we have all of those. So fireworks galaxy, was known as Caldwell 12. That was the spiral galaxy. There we go. That was the supercluster, the Virgo supercluster. So most of these that I had chosen, they had just had fun facts that had went with them, and I thought that that was interesting. So this NCG 758, it was an intermediate spiral galaxy. So it wasn't an exact spiral galaxy like the fireworks one, but it was an intermediate spiral galaxy, and it was a moving group. And it's between Caldwell 19 and the fireworks galaxy itself. So if we were imagining in the sky and we say the fireworks galaxy is here, and we say Caldwell 19 is down here, then we have NCG 758 in the middle somewhere with its spiral galaxy of the moving group of the storm moving through. And then our Cocoon Nebulae, that was our Caldwell 19, so I was really happy that I had chosen that. So between our Cocoon Nebulae and our fireworks galaxy, that's where our storm of NCG 758 is coming in. And then the Veil Nebulae itself was known as Caldwell 34. it has the visible portion of a large Cygnus loop, remnants of the supernova cloud of a warm dust and ionized gas. Takes up an area of the sky about 36 times larger than the full moon. So we're talking like this ionized gas, dust storm, whatever you want to call it, it's so large that it is way bigger than our full moon. So, you know, that's bigger than the Earth. That's not quite as big as the sun, but it's definitely large. It's up there in size. So yeah, these were just some fun facts about all of them. I'd say my favorite was probably the Fireworks Galaxy. I think that's just the name itself. I think that one was pretty cool to read about. And then while I was reading about all of these, that is when I had stumbled across the fact that on August 18th we may see the meteors radiating from the sky in the constellation Cygnus. So if you were interested, you know, you could go through and you could do, or you could look for the meteors that are gonna radiate from the sky. And then that's just my video right here. So that is of all of the deep space objects that we were looking at there. So if you wanted to, you know, pause or, you know, go through and watch that, I highly advise to. Especially because that video is important to watch. So here's our fourth slide. So this has to do with our constellation myth. There were quite a few Cygnus myths in this constellation. So we have Spartan Queen Leda. She personally had 2 children who were born, and they were considered immortal. And while they were considered immortal, Zeus seduced Clementra and others. And after he had seduced these people, he himself had become a swan. He'd just become a swan after seducing the others that he seduced, and then he just so magically had transformed into this magical swan. From there, King Tyndareus, that's what we'll say, then he fathered the immortal children. I should make note that the immortal children are the Pollux and Helen right here. So that's why they're in the second bulleted list, is because Spartan Queen Leda, she gave birth to her children, and her children were Pollux and Helena, and they were considered immortals. And then Zeus, he had he had seduced, not cheated, Clementra, and he had then transferred into the swan, where then King Tyndareus, he comes in and he fathers these immortal children, while Queen Leda's immortal children, Queen Leda's immortal children, they were fathered by the husband of Queen Leda. So Castor and Pollux refer to the constellation Gemini, which I just thought that was truly interesting, because we have Spartan Queen Leda and she gives birth to these immortals, and these are considered Pollux and Helena. Now, once he seduces Clementra, then he transforms into the swan. And then King Tyndareus, which is the husband of Spartan Queen Leda, then takes on fathering and taking that role of being a father for Pollux and Helen, which were the immortals. And then Castor and Pollux were then referred to as the constellation Gemini. excuse me, the zodiac Gemini, not the constellation, the zodiac. I am getting them two words mixed up, very much so. But